After 12 years of marriage, my 38-year-old wife and I, a 39-year-old man, have 3 children: a tween, a pre-tween, and a young grammar school student. We are fairly near to family on both sides of our residence. Although not large, our house is enough for our family. On my wife's side of the family, nobody else owns a home, though. All of her siblings live in apartments or rent houses with roommates. About 5 years ago, her parents moved into a smaller townhome. We thus wind up hosting her family's gatherings whenever they wish to celebrate holidays or other significant occasions. Now, there's hardly even a conversation with her family. Everyone just knows that we will be hosting. At minimum, we switch off important holidays between her family and mine. Hosting responsibilities are divided amongst us, though, as my parents and siblings can also throw events. But we host for every holiday we spend with her family, including Christmas, Thanksgiving, the 4th of July, Easter, etc. Additionally, her family is not the finest host. If we ask, they will bring food, but they never show up when we need help with cleanup or anything else. I've told my wife over and over again how much I detest this arrangement. She has requested that I let her handle it and not bring it up with her family. Still, nothing has ever altered. This year, we hosted her family for Christmas, and it was awful. Individuals arrived after the scheduled time, neglected to deliver the food, offered no assistance with cleanup, let their children to make mess, and so on. The same old tale as it has always been. I told my wife I was done after that. I informed her that until another member of her family volunteers to host, or unless we reserve another location and divide the cost among ourselves, I wouldn't want to host her family. She committed to discussing it with her family and coming up with a solution for the upcoming holiday. This year's Easter was meant to be spent with only our immediate family. No relatives were invited. However, my wife had lunch with her mother and sister a few weeks ago. She informed me she had discussed with them how difficult it was to host Christmas when she arrived home. She claimed that her mother and sister promised to show us that they would do better on Easter. My spouse concurred. We had a furious argument about it. My wife was on her own for this one, I informed her. I informed her that I would be spending Easter weekend with my family and that I would be happy to bring any children who would like to attend, but that I would be taking no part in the hosting at all. Her mother and sister seemed honest in their conversation, so she believes I'm overreacting and that I should give her family one last chance. I told her that I didn't want it to come to that and that I didn't care what they thought, adding that I wouldn't be involved at all because I wouldn't be able to control myself this time. She's quite unhappy with me, but it doesn't really bother me. And to top it all off, instead of remaining home for the weekend, all 3 of our children want to come stay with me. Not the fool. She is saying that she didn't inform them when she met them that you weren't hosting. They took her out to dinner, thinking you would be hosting. She said something in passing about how you're getting annoyed with them and that they need help cleaning. Otherwise, you paid the price for her to serve as her family's doormat. Enjoy time with your family, but don't expect your wife to defend your decision to leave her by alone. Nobody will learn anything from it, she'll say, adding something along the lines of your mom insisted you be there. This is it, 100%. And guess what? After the other kids help ruin their rooms, your kids are left to tidy their rooms by themselves. If I were them, I would be joining you as well. When you tell her you're done entertaining her relatives, she doesn't appear to hear you. Since no one else in the family has a place for it, I can understand why she might feel a little forced to do it. Still, she needs to grasp it and come up with a different plan if you're sick of it. How much do you want to wager that when he returns home, the house will be in disarray and she will need his assistance to clean it up? Telling her family that you guys already have arrangements with the OP's family is something the wife needs to get over. Allow them to make their own plans. They will only be able to learn in this way. My female sibling, who is 21, is a complete wreck. As she grew older, a problem would arise every week. It can just be a simple tantrum or a call from the school for mom or dad. She was, in a word, a lot. Not to add that the family was practically bankrupted by her therapy. My parents trusted me, so they allowed me more independence. They knew they wouldn't get a call from security regarding theft. That had happened before, so I could visit the mall by myself. They gave me more latitude to accomplish things because they trusted me. I've literally seen her blow the opportunity to show our parents that they can trust her. Our partnership isn't doing well. During my final year of college, my father gave me his old automobile. It is necessary for my internship. It was said by my sister that the golden child naturally inherits a car. I told her, quite angrily, that I wasn't the golden child. I was just not a bother in the butt. The family has repeatedly sacrificed everything for her rather than allow her to remain silent. She stormed to her room after calling me a jerk. I told my sister that I'm not the golden kid. Am I the idiot? Went to her room and ran. Hold on, what is her age? 23. Guess what? She doesn't have a job either. When she starts to become toxic, please simply get away from her and avoid interacting with her. She gives off the impression that she always chooses to be the victim. Remain firm and avoid making eye contact with her. OP, she is obviously a toxic person. Some individuals only exist in their own worlds. I advise you to disregard her and carry on living your own life. It never gets better in my experience. Toxic people don't want to get better. All they want to do is irritate you until you lash out, at which time they can point the finger and claim that they were correct all along. Not the imbecile, LOL. You should let her know that if her idea of the golden child is someone who gives them goods, then you may argue that she qualifies as the golden child because your parents paid a lot of money for her therapy. Your sister is an ungrateful brat. You did nothing wrong. Furthermore, I'm weary of seeing spoiled kids who pretend that their sister is the ideal child. OP, good luck. A few months ago was when it all began. My 40-year-old wife told me, 39-year-old man, that her boss had a serious crush on her. My spouse and I chuckled and made jokes about it. I knew they were close friends and had complete faith in my wife, so I told them, "That's a great compliment. Good for you. Just be careful." Time travel. A few weeks later, her employer gave her a call around 9 o'clock at night. She accessed her messages and was attempting to delete one when I said, "Just pick up. Maybe it's important." She didn't respond appropriately and reacted angrily, saying, "No, I'm here with you." I picked up the phone at this point and started reading the texts. She was upset, accusing me of violating her personal space and other things. I saw it then, texts from him saying, "I miss you," and hearts being exchanged. I know that he is in love with her, but she lied and said they were just friends. She therefore says that there is no need for concern. She swore before our kids that they wouldn't kiss, and then there was stillness. Days later, she acknowledged it. I learned that they had kissed several times after pressing for further information. He gave her several kisses on the neck and gave her long hugs. Intimacy was absent. That bit, I guess I believe. You must be aware of my wife's extreme insecurity over her career. She had only worked for 1 or 2 years before landing this position, when everything went really well. I was therefore very helpful in every manner. She could work more and I could work less because I was trying to be present for our 3 kids. It's clear to me that she genuinely enjoys her profession, which is why we decided to keep her employed there. There are only a few employees at this tiny business. It was difficult for me. I began to peek behind her at his messages and other activities. Not a really pleasant environment. Then everything went wrong. On our family vacation, it was just the kids and me, and looking back, I saw that she was messaging him every day. He texts, "I wish I knew you earlier," and other like statements. Despite her somewhat cold-blooded reaction to him, she was utterly preoccupied the entire holiday. We decided right after the holiday that she could only stay on staff as long as they maintained professionalism and avoided one-on-one conversations on the weekends or after 7 p.m. This agreement made me feel a little better, and now this past weekend I discovered that they are calling behind my back every day, Saturday and Sunday. She explained that they are exchanging feelings because, unlike with me, she feels comfortable and understood with him. She added that she now feels a certain way about him. I told her 2 weeks ago that I was done with it and that either she ceased seeing him entirely and in turn stop working, or I end our relationship since I can no longer stand the lying and other things. She is enraged with me and accuses me of being a monster for wanting to put her in a cage and choosing which buddy she should have. To be clear, up until this point I've never forced her to discontinue a friendship. She also believes that I will fully remove the children from her. Of course I won't, and I'll bankrupt her. I refuse to. Is it truly a monster that I gave her the ultimatum and asked her to stop communicating with her boss and, as she put it, a very good friend? I have lost knowledge of it. Am I the foolish one? I neglected to explain that her boss is married and that he and his wife are parents to a newborn. The poor girl, not the fool. You're not a monster, but you're a fairly stupid person to stay with her and put up with her. There's no doubt that she is cheating on her boss. Go if you're self-respecting. Children would prefer to have happy divorced parents than unhappy, stuck parents in a bad marriage. Yes, she has at minimum been hitting him at work. Ignore that guy. She's utilizing OP. He must leave that place immediately. When someone is exposed as a liar, what happens? Take the defensive stance. She is 100% involved in an affair with him. Embracing? Haha. People over 40 are behaving like preteens. I find it hard to believe that she will keep talking to her boss behind his back. I apologize, but it's already ended. Man, you're just too dumb to want to understand it. OP is going to gaslight him for a few months while performing the pick-me dance. Although his emotions may want to believe her gaslighting is fact, his head will give him the truth. OP will only be a shadow of the guy he once was before he knows it. She'll be completely lost, and OP will be abandoned, alone, and without a family or a backbone. I wish you luck. My 37-year-old husband Jim and I have been together for 15 years, married for 3, and have had a home together for 10. We decided that each of us would get an empty room to utilize as an office or studio. We are fortunate to have more than one unoccupied bedroom. Jim and I both work from home as substitute teachers of music, albeit Jim does so more often than I do. To avoid turning up the heat in Jim's room, I volunteered to let him teach in my office when I'm not using it, which is, to be honest, most of the time, since his office gets cold in the winter. Ever since, Jim's office has progressively transformed into an embellished storage area, brimming with figurines, posters, Legos, an ant farm, and an assortment of other memorabilia. It's no longer possible to walk around the room, let alone provide violin lessons. I know that these items hold great meaning for Jim, but I've made it clear to him on multiple occasions that I'm not very fond of collecting memorabilia. Jim's family has a history of hoarding, not to mention the money that was saved for retirement or put towards another investment. But since this is meant to be his room, I've never given him strict instructions about what he can and cannot buy, nor have I given him deadlines for tidying up. We don't really have any financial issues because of Jim's teachings, so I've allowed it stay that way as long as the collections remain in his office. Although this agreement seemed clear to me, it might not have been as plain as I believed. Jim informed me that he had erected shelves above his office door on the outside in my absence, so that he could store additional collectibles when I got home from work yesterday. When he informed me about the shelves, I thought they would be on the inside rather than the outside of the room. I became extremely irate and told him that since the room was already completely useless for anything other than staring at his junk, it was impossible for his collectibles to start invading the rest of the house. All right, I acknowledge it was harsh, and I would prefer to reside in a place that appears to be owned by real adults, and severe. I don't think we have to agree on every single detail about the house because Jim has always loved my modest home updates, but this has gotten too much. Am I the foolish one? It's you who is the fool. First of all, you are not equipped to diagnose hoarding, regardless of whether it runs in his family. Second, do you realize that condemning him for his interests and putting restrictions on him in this way will not help if he was just starting to hoard? intentionally encourage the desire to accumulate more? Why do you have the last word among the members of the house? Why is your husband unable to put some of his hobbies on suitable shelves or cupboards somewhere else? Maybe his workspace wouldn't be too cramped to navigate if he didn't feel the need to fit everything into a small area. Indeed, you are behaving like a child towards your husband. His interests are just as valid as yours. A lot of people collect anything and everything, including china dolls and stamps, sports memorabilia, or trainers too. You ought to reevaluate how you divide the space that is rightfully yours together, because your agreement sounds like an unreasonable demand. Not that I'm an idiot, but alas, history seems to be repeating itself. Your spouse hoards things. Look, who could step in here but an armchair psychologist? It has nothing to do with the shht. Rather, it's about him not telling you exactly what he wants to do. It has to do with his pastime taking over multiple rooms. It has to do with him taking over your room and invading your personal space. Simply inform him that going forward, he must teach from his room. He needs to decide what to do with his belongings without assuming control of other areas of the house. You feel like you don't have any space that is exclusively yours anymore, or that is just the two of you without your hobbies spilling into the common area, so tell him he has the weekend to work it out. Ask yourself this: if he won't go back to his room, what will you do? My closest friend Jane, her brother Elliot, and his 2-year girlfriend Kathy are the characters in this novel. Jane requested me to be her maid of honor since she is getting married to her fiancé, Tom, in July. Given that I consider Jane to be my sister, this was to be anticipated. But I was shocked when she invited Kathy, her brother's girlfriend, to be a bridesmaid. Afterwards, Jane revealed that Kathy had coerced her into doing it, and that she had done it to appease Elliot. The problem is that Kathy despises me, as in, really despises me. She holds me responsible for all of her problems with Elliot and Jane's parents, as well as her lack of a stronger friendship with Jane. She believes that I'm attempting to take Elliot away from her. I'm not. Nevertheless, she can't take it when we disagree and will go crazy to defend him and argue with me. Even though this was actually not going too poorly, I was determined to set all of this aside for Jane. However, we visited a bridal boutique last weekend to select bridesmaid outfits. Kathy lost it when Jane indicated that she wanted Elliot and me to go down the aisle together. Among many other derogatory terms, she called me obese, false, desperate, insane, and a pick-me. I realized later that I ought to have spoken more, but at the time I could tell that everyone was staring at her, and I didn't want it to happen to me. Yeah, I'm not dealing with this either. She's out or I am, I responded, packing up my belongings and heading out. Jane accepted my offer of a long weekend of babysitting and some flowers in exchange for my apology for the incident. We're all right now then. Jane wants me to be the maid of honor, so she's told Kathy she can't be a bridesmaid anymore. Both Kathy and Elliot are having problems as a result of this. Elliot and Kathy expressed regret and promised that Kathy would behave herself better for the entire wedding. But I'm not going to give up. I'm reconsidering because Jane's mother and my mother both believe I should back off on the ultimatum, and I don't want to put Jane through any hardship. I simply don't know how long I can continue to be the bigger person with her, because I know there are more things she will attempt to bring up. So, am I the fool that started all of this drama? Eddie feels that because he wants Elliot to date me, Elliot's father despises her. This is untrue. Why he doesn't like her is beyond me. She seemed to believe that because Jane has a sister already, there is no room for them to be close. Sincerely, I have no idea why she believes I'm attempting to kidnap Elliot. We have never shared a close friendship. I've never made it clear that I want to be her boyfriend. We irritate one other to the point of eternal hate. Not the fool. Jane seems to have had second thoughts about becoming a bridesmaid, and you provided her with a way out without jeopardizing her bond with Elliot. Remain still. This isn't normal behavior, so try to find out what's going on with Kathy. Either Jane is incredibly blind, or she did this on purpose to get Kathy to react so Jane might have an excuse to take her out. You haven't done anything wrong either way. Jane is insistent that you walk down the aisle with her brother rather than his girlfriend. But why? Jane seems to be the fool who started this. I was scrolling through this and wondered why Jane is taking an entire weekend of flowers and babysitting as an apology for the OP's quite understandable outburst. Why doesn't Jane reassure the person in question that they have nothing to regret? Extremely strange actions from Kathy and Jane. To be honest, I think everyone here is an idiot, with the exception of the original poster.